Yeah. It's the mafia. Yeah.
He's a monkey with cymbals in his hands instead of just catching the
and
doing this.
They're giving us like a 24-hour dope feed. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a Bill City. Yeah, a Buffalo Bill City. Yeah, we got Josh Allen, got Steph.
I know they mentioned something about an ultrasound to check the nerve endings and everything.
Hopefully
else
he's
like
not pregnant. That would
Hopefully
be,
not
that would be a
pregnant.
disaster. I hear that's a 9-month timeline to recover from at the minimum, is what I've heard.
Yeah, Ike McKenzie on a jet sweep. Maybe it's a fake. Honestly, it's a TD either way when you got Josh Allen making plays. Win a ball before we get a new stadium.
Someone's making a new Twitter at some point. Maybe we should do that.
Honestly, I'll just start a shared Google Doc, and that'll be our new Twitter. That'll be our new Twitter.
Just people just adding shit in.
Anonymous Hedgehog is saying "fuck your mom." Like.
This is our team forever. It is forever. We got Josh Allen, got Steph.
Folks, welcome into a new episode of the Crowdisters podcast presented by Trainwreck Sports. Take 2. You will not see the first take. It did not happen. We are not going to talk about the technical difficulties we had before right now that were entirely my fault. That's okay. We're moving on, though. We're moving on. Brand new episode of the Crowdisters podcast, talking NFL draft, Bills draft needs, going to talk about the QB prospects in this draft, and whatever else we might get to. Wake here with my good friend, your friend, Jake Micah. Jake, last night, before we get into all this stuff, Lauren and I saw, we went to UB Center of the Arts, okay? And they had a screening for a movie, followed up with 3 of the stars from the movie doing like a conversation after. Mm-hmm. And it's a movie that I think is probably somehow, even though it's a cult classic, one of the most underrated comedies of all time. I think it belongs in the conversation of one of the best comedies made ever. And it was Napoleon Dynamite.
Who was there?
It was John Heder. It was Pedro, and it was Uncle Rico.
That's amazing.
And it was hysterical. They had a tetherball on the stage, and he played some like 17-year-old, and he kicked his ass completely.
Nice. As he should.
They had some people throw a stake at Uncle Rico's face while he was riding a bike. So it was a little bit of role reversal there. And they also had a piñata of Summer hanging. So it was beautiful. But just so many like cool little nuggets that they just took questions for hours, basically just telling us all about the making of the film. And like, that is probably one of the few movies that every time I watch it, I will probably laugh the same amount. Like, it is just completely and utterly ridiculous. Did you know it was filmed in 22 days?
No.
Yeah, it was that kind of indie movie. 22 days. Sub like $100,000 like budget, and it's just
I was gonna say how did that even, what was actually the budget, like what did they even count as budget costs? Because I feel like they just had like 2 cameras and we're just filming around
more or less. Pretty much. And all the extras were like kids from the high school, like in the town they were filming in, and they paid the bully who was like shoving people into lockers in like chips and soda, they said. Like, actually.
There you go.
So it was just like any indie filmmaker's dream. And you know, if anyone somehow hasn't seen Napoleon Dynamite, or if you think
I don't know what the fuck you are doing.
I don't know what you're doing if you haven't seen it.
But at this point, but
if you don't think it holds up, you got to go and watch it again, because it gets funnier
it holds up
with every single watch. I swear.
Holds up. Maybe I'll watch it tonight.
I would. Apparently, before they made the actual film, they made a 7-minute short film. It was all shot in black and white, and then it was a 3-character film. And then the director went back to John Heder and was like, I think we're going to do this into a feature.
And look at that.
And then 20 years later, they're still doing tours on the movie, which is incredible. So good for them. And hopefully in 20 years, we might be talking about this draft class for the Bills. What do you think?
Depends.
Yeah, right. Hopefully for the right reasons.
When they trade all their draft for Bijan Robinson, and we get that picture of Brandon Beane, like what's his name there, Mike Ditka, right? Is that what I'm thinking of when he traded for Ricky Williams? That's what I want. I want Beane just smoking a cigar in Kansas City after he trades up to number 7, trading whole draft, and picks Bijan Robinson.
Are you still on the Bijan train? Are you still on the Bijan train? No, you're not.
That's I had to get it once. I am very much in my dynasty fantasy league right now, trying to angle to get the number 1 pick for Bijan Robinson. So I still am on the Bijan train, but just not.
But not for the Bills. Yeah,
just for myself. Yeah.
Well, I think had we done this little exercise we're about to do, maybe even a month ago before free agency, our list would probably look a little bit different. What we're going to do is we're going to
thought. Right, Bills fans, that the roster would look different after free agency, even with no money. Who would have thought?
It's like the cap is almost kind of a little bit real. It's like bring it to Napoleon Dynamite. It's like a Liger. Like, you don't think it's really real, but it's there. It actually exists out there somewhere. It's just, does it really? No, Ligers are real, and they're beautiful, majestic creatures.
Just like Josh Allen.
Just like Josh Allen, and just like some of the guys that hopefully he'll be playing with come this fall. So we're going to go through, rank our top 5 position groups we want the Bills to go after in the first round, or like just in the draft in general. Go top 5. And I feel like my number 5 is going to be a little probably unpopular and probably low for some people. But for me, number 5 for me is wide receiver.
Oh, wow.
It has a lot to do with the draft class. It has a lot to do with the fact that I don't think that, at least for the first round, it's really that much of a priority, because the run on receiver is going to be pretty unpredictable, and it's probably going to start sooner than we're going to like it to, just because that's the way that things have kind of been going lately. But also, if you look at past seasons, like Kadarius Toney got acquired for a 6th round pick. There are going to be other trades like that are available mid-season if the Deontay Hardys, if the Trent Sherfields don't really work out. And I think there is another offensive position group. You and I talked like last year talked about treating the Bills' offensive playmakers as weapons, like positionless weapons, and not as wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. Dawson Knox fits in there somewhere. James Cook or Singletary, former Singletary, would fit in there somewhere, And so for that reason, spoiler alert, I do have tight end higher than wide receiver, and that's kind of why, because there's more that the tight end position can offer than just being a threat down the field for Josh Allen.
Yeah. Wide receiver is much higher on my list, but it is not number 1, mostly because of what you said about the talent at this position. I think there's one first-round talent in this draft. His name is Jackson Smith-Njigba, who should be a top 10 pick. And if the Bills have a chance to go get him, they should go get him, because if he played this year
with that trade up,
if he played this year, we'd be talking about Bijan, JSN, and everybody else. That's just what would be happening. It's not happening because he didn't play. Whatever questions are going on, just ask Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. They've said it in interviews multiple times now, but there was one interview specifically they said together that he was the best one out of the 3 of them. Those 2 were pretty damn good this year. Mm-hmm. But the rest of that first round class is more like a high second round class to me that is disguised as a first round class, where it's guys that have great traits, but they need to fit perfectly. And there are some guys that fit perfectly for the Bills that in the spot at wide receiver. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But it needs to fit, and it needs to be the right spot for them to take it. And I think there's only a couple guys I think that they will consider ahead of some of the wide receivers. I think if there are guys that go ahead, if there's a little bit of a run, though, they're not gonna be afraid to trade back at all.
No, at all. And I will say number 1 on this list for me really is trade back. Like, no matter what, I would almost rather than trade back. Then because that 27, there's going to be people falling. People are going to want to go up to get their guy. They might be willing to overpay to move from like a late 30, low 40 to get up to 27 there. Yeah. And we have 6 draft picks this year, and people have been saying, we need more draft picks because we have so many expensive players and everything.
Here's something I'm thinking about too, with this draft specifically, is right now they're still in line for the compensatory next year. So that number 3 for next year could come flying right out. Like that could get dealt for a 3 this year easily, just because Beane's going to be like, well, I know I got the one coming anyways. So what does it matter? Like something like that. Like I think they're going to be aggressive this year more than anything, right? Like, I mean, trading back in a way could be aggressive because you want to accumulate assets to make day 2 moves, where Beane maybe is where all the guys that he knows he's not getting the top end guys. And this is a second to 4th round draft, not a 1st round draft.
Yeah, and I think a trade back could be significant of possibly a DeAndre Hopkins trade. Acquiring more day 2, day 3 picks.
Well, did you see the graphic of the Bills trades potentially on draft day? They're trading for everybody, actually. Let me show you.
Really?
This.
Oh,
yeah.
I love this.
Let me see this. It was from Corey Robinson, I believe.
I've heard of him.
No, that is not him. That's not
good, because I have not heard of him.
You didn't. Well, at least good thing you were trying to sell him. Cody Benjamin. So it was like
I've heard of him too.
I had it in the right
double first name.
Bradley Gelber posted it on. I don't know who Cody Benjamin is, so whatever, Cody. I'm giving Bradley Gelber the shout out because he's the one who posted it.
He blocked me on Twitter for no reason in particular.
Okay, never mind. So we're not giving. You know what? This is
shout out. We revoke that shout out to Bradley Gelber.
I'm not saying this. I just saw it from random men on the internet. But here's what it is.
They're dangerous.
According to Cody Benjamin, big names that could be drafted during the 2023 NFL draft. Second on the list for Josh Jacobs, the Buffalo Bills. First on the list for Derrick Henry, the Buffalo Bills. First on the list for Dalvin Cook, the Buffalo Bills. First on the list for DeAndre Hopkins, the Buffalo Bills. First on the list for Devin White, the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are trading for the entire trade block at the draft, evidently. So maybe we got that to look
6 RB1s next year. That's crazy.
I just tweeted the Thanos gauntlet. I was like, that's Brandon Beane on draft night. he's just like, I'm gonna get all the players. And
now who is stopping Sean McDermott, big ground and pound guy? Fuck them picks, fuck them receivers too. What if we go 6 running backs and 4 receivers every game?
I'm saying,
tell me we shouldn't.
Triple I formation or some full house. You get Henry, Damian Harris, personnel, and James Cook in the backfield.
31 personnel.
We just Diggs.
What?
You want all the
32 personnel.
Diggs wants all the targets. Fine. You're the only wide receiver now. You have no other wide receivers. We're drafting tight ends and running backs and Stephon Diggs. I think it could work.
I love. Hey, no one's ever done it before.
Zig when you could zag. I really want to know who Cody Benjamin is so we can see if he knows anything. Because I do think here's the thing, CBS Sports. I do think there's something to the fact that the Bills name keeps getting thrown in every single trade rumor that gets brought up. Every star player, every player right now that gets brought up in a trade, Devin White, Derrick Henry, whoever, Hopkins for a while. The Bills are going to be in on him. The Bills have been calling about him. So are the Bills just calling about everybody and in on everybody? And should we expect a draft night trade? Like, is Brandon Beane telling us what his plan is for draft night without telling us? Because that's what it feels like to me.
Every time he addresses a trade on like WGR in a press conference or something, he says, anytime a good player becomes available who we think can make this football team better, we are going to make a call. And so he might actually just be making a call on every single play. And maybe he's been telling us straight to our faces what he does all the time.
He's just offering like 4th round picks to every team in the NFL. Like DeAndre Hopkins, 4th round pick. Josh Jacobs, 4th round pick.
Mike Weber in a 3rd.
Exactly. That's his deal right now. Nyheim Hines in a 3rd for Derrick Henry. Let's do it. Like maybe there's got to be a reason that all these reporters keep mentioning the Bills' names every time one of these players.
It might honestly just be because Bills Twitter will take it and run with it, no matter who the player
Bills
is.
Twitter. Did you see me declare war on all Twitters this week? I declared war on all Twitter, basically Twitter, because I said all gatekeepers on Twitter, and that's basically Twitter. But I'm just And then grateful, and then
that's tough. The Swifties are going to be coming after you too.
Oh, the Swifties! I'm ready for them. Beyonce, Beehive, come on, let's go. The Harry Potter fans are the ones that really fired me up this week because this one Harry Potter fan in particular posted a special Twitter blue long, basically just naming the whole cast and being like, we can't possibly do this TV series. This is the cast that we will always remember, and then either copy and pasted or typed out basically every character that ever appeared in a Harry Potter film, and then 2 days later announced they're deleting their account because they got too much attacks from their previous post,
You
and I
gotta
said,
stand
you,
it.
I said, you stand on it. What do you
Come on.
mean? You're gonna get mad now because people roasted you for typing
If
out the
I
cast?
ever have
Like,
a
we have
tweet that gets me
Google.
roasted,
We can
I
Google the
will-
cast. We know
Yeah.
who was in Harry Potter.
IMDb.
Thank you.
It's
I
simple.
think they had to have just copy and pasted IMDb. It was like
Yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe as Harry, Ron, whoever, I don't remember Ron's.
Rupert Grint. Put some
Rupert
respect on his
Grimley.
name.
Listen,
Grint,
I'm
not
new to this.
Grimley.
I'm new to this. Who am
Oh
I
my
thinking
God.
of? William Brimley. That's who I'm thinking.
Jesus. Long way away. What's your number 5 position group for the Bills to draft in 2023,
Safety, a
Jake?
safety, because I only think there's 4 options really.
Okay.
And so if a safety is still a position they're going to draft in round 2 or 3 or 4, one of those, I think they're going to pick at least, somewhat high up in the draft, day 2 at least, for a safety, just because it's.
Wow. I didn't even have them in my top 5.
I really only think there's 4 positions that they are going to consider. I guess maybe 5 if I'm not considering one position. You could argue there's another one when I get to the top of this list here, but I think that there's a guy they fall in love with and that they feel they can trade back to 31 and they'll just snag him and pick up an extra pick or something like that, like Jamie Robinson or something like that. I don't think it's worth taking a guy at 27 though. That's the biggest thing with the safety, and that's why I want to talk about trading. You brought it up right as I was going to bring up the trading back, because I think you trade back to like 32 or something, 31, of those teams, and then pick the safety and just gather a couple picks or something like that.
Yeah, it's
but
also
that's where
not
I'm
a particularly strong safety class. Like, Brian Branch or Jordan Battle could be good picks.
Battle, if they're like in love with Battle and it's the end of the first and they're like their whole board of all their guys like are gone. It's like, fuck it. Let's just get their guy that we think could be a starter for 5 years. But that's the thing too. If they think he could be a starter they want that extra year on him too. Yeah. That could be a big thing for the safety position. And I'll go again here.
Yeah, go for 4.
I got tight end as 4th.
That's what I have
tight
too.
end pretty high. Oh, great.
This is basically receiver. Yeah.
This is basically I could just write Darnell Washington next to it. I'm in love with Darnell Washington.
That's the pick.
I also like Dalton Kincaid. I don't know if they need to pick him in round 1 area. I do like Kincaid. I'm not a Michael Mayer fan, but that's just because I'm a Notre Dame hater, so wouldn't enjoy that as much.
Love the
but if it happens, whatever. Yeah, my bias. I'm very open about my biases, but I would be happy with a player like him as well. But I think tight end, the Bills. It's a very underrated look here because it's a very good top of this class for the tight end. One thing, and 2, the signing of OJ Howard showed us that Dorsey wanted to use 2 tight end sets. They just scouted wrong.
Yeah,
I wasn't very excited about OJ Howard, but I liked the thought of what they were trying to do. Yeah, and it makes sense. Like it worked out for him in Houston. So whatever happened, he was able to figure out something. The Bills didn't
3 multi-touchdown games down there.
Yeah, and that could have used that, but the idea of it I kind of like. And you don't need a stud. If you have 2 stud tight ends, how much do you really need this deep? I mean, you might not have to emphasize receiver as much, and you could run with these guys or in a later receiver pick if you wanted to do something else. I think they have more options than people think if they want to use a tight end. Everyone's like, well, they've never used these sets. It's like, okay, but if they have 2 of these guys,
they've never had the personnel.
Yeah, of course they're going to do it now. Of course they would use these, and then you have Diggs, Davis, and 2 tight ends on the field. Who knows what that looks like? Allen might be in love with tight ends if he has 2 big old tight ends down the thing. For all we know, it could be the next development of his career. We've seen how it helps so many guys when they have 2 reliable targets in the middle of the field like that. When have they had a guy like that big in the middle at all? Because Knox is kind of there, but Knox
Charles Clay, honestly, that's sad, dude. Scott Chandler,
Knox is a big dude, but he's not Darnell Washington's a freak. He's and the thing about Washington, specifically with him and Mayer too, is if you're thinking about wanting to get a tackle or something, they're gonna help Spencer Brown because Darnell Washington is just another tackle and he's gonna help your pass blocking.
And that's why, like I said before, I have tight end over wide receiver because you get the offensive threat down the field and you get the protection up front. When it comes to Darnell Washington, I am just already envisioning on Sunday Night Football or whatever primetime game we have, maybe against the Bengals, there's going to be a video, a replay circle on two different players, Sam Hubbard, Darnell Washington. Darnell Washington gets the matchup to block Sam Hubbard, and it works.
Yep.
And the next one, he's going to get schooled. Not going to lie. He'll probably get schooled a few times by some of those good edge rushers, but he's so just physically gifted that the learning curve for him to come into the NFL and stand up and assist that offensive line is going to be not very it really isn't going to be that difficult for him. And I would almost prefer that over an offensive tackle, despite that position group being higher than tight end. It's mainly because when I say tight end at 4 for me, I'm saying Darnell Washington in the first round or day 3.
Yeah.
Really no in between, you know?
Yeah, I feel you.
Number 3 for me is defensive tackle.
Okay.
And it's mainly because it would be, one, we know that the defensive line rotation is a thing, and it's always going to be a thing under McDermott, especially with him doing play calling this year. That kind of just shows that this defense is forever going to have that McDermott stamp on it. And the rotation of the defensive line is kind of the biggest component of that. But also outside of it, nobody, we don't have a single defensive tackle signed beyond this season. So it is a pick that could help this year, relieve Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones, because neither of them are 100% of the time players, and also have our defensive tackle of the future. Only thing is, I'm not sure at 27.
I think Maisie Smith would be my guy there.
Yeah, Maisie Smith, maybe Kalijah Cansey, maybe I could get behind it, but
freak athlete.
I saw people mocking Jalen Carter to make it into the 20s. There's no way in hell that
the Bills aren't going to take. And I don't even know if the Bills would want it. Like, if he actually has all these character concerns, when have the Bills brought in a guy like that ever really under McDermott and being that many issues?
They inquired about Antonio Brown and almost traded for him, but that's the closest thing that you could have to it, right?
That's true. That was a bad. That was a.
And I guess you could say Stephon Diggs, but those character concerns are completely overblown. So maybe it's possible Jalen Carter
is doing the same shit right now that he was doing that pissed off everybody in Minnesota. It's hilarious. They just have a better quarterback.
Fire emoji means I'm going to the Giants.
I love shout out Jeremy White, who just posts the random emojis, and you see at least 4 people seriously what's happening, Jeremy?
Super secret service.
No matter what, even if they know,
is Howard coming back?
I don't have D tackle on this list only because I think Brandon Beane at this point has told us without telling us that they want to give Ed Oliver a lot of money if he wants it. And I think that the reason that there's no D tackle actually signed beyond that, well, I think Daquan and Phillips are they're going to be year by year guys at this point anyways. You put Settle and Ed Oliver in contract years, and you're just like, hey, there's $15 million for one of you guys or both of you for next year. This is what we got. Which one of you wants it? And motivate them that way. I love contract year players. It's one of my favorite things in all of sports, basketball, football, hockey, everything. Contract year players, that extra motivation to show out when you're about to get paid. Ed Oliver feels like a prime contract year player, and I think that Beane's kind of counting on that and seeing what it looks like, and then you go into next year and then figure it out from there. Because if you don't want to pay him, they could patch it up and fix that next year. That's where I'm at with it. I wouldn't be surprised though, because they do like filling needs a year ahead of time if they do that, and I wouldn't be mad about it either, because the trenches are where this team I think needs the most, especially offensively. But it ain't gonna hurt to get another weapon defensively. They're fine at the D tackle position right now, but there is room for improvement.
I'm gonna change. I don't like the list that I have anymore, so I'm gonna retroactively change it, because I had offensive tackle at 1, but I'm gonna bump that down to 5 and move everything else up, because I don't want a rookie offensive tackle blocking for Josh Allen during a Super Bowl window. I don't
even have tackle on my list, honestly, for the first round.
So now it goes for me: tackle, wide receiver, tight end, defensive tackle. So now you get to go 2 in a row again. So give me your 3, give me your 2.
My 3 is linebacker, and it's mostly just Jack Campbell, because I think that they've, again, smoke where there's smoke, there's fire. They've definitely fallen in love with Jack Campbell. Will they take him at 27? I don't know. But I don't even think I'd be mad about it at this point. The dude's got he's got the RAS score. He's been working out with Kuechly, who we know that they trust his opinion. Clearly, if they brought him in to guest coach, like they clearly trust him with the players, and I think you should. Like if they think that that's a surefire 5-year starter that they can plug a hole on their defense that they just lost. I know it's not the ideal team building scenario, but this is kind of the draft to do that. Like this is this is not a draft where you're really like you can get your receiver in the second round or your offensive lineman still in the set. You could go if they go Campbell round 1 and do receiver lineman 2 and 3, whatever combination that is. They're still going to get guys that can compete to play meaningful snaps this year, no matter what, for those 2 offensive positions. So that's what I like about it. I have it third because I'd rather just have them load up on offense and figure the linebacker position out later and try or whatever else they can do with it. But if they've just fallen in love with Campbell, and I really like Campbell too, I wouldn't hate it. I just wouldn't hate it. I wouldn't be happy, but I wouldn't hate it.
Yep. That makes sense to me. I mean, like, I'll just say based off of that, just to keep the conversation on Campbell going, because it makes sense. Linebacker is my number 1 now. Like, I think it is the one position where you draft someone on the first round with the intention of them making an immediate impact on this team.
Yep.
And a lot of people aren't super excited about the idea of Terrell Bernard or Tyrell Dodson playing meaningful.
I'm not really either, to be honest.
And I am not either. Obviously, no, I'm not going to pretend I am. And linebacker's number 1 for me, especially after seeing the money that Devin White is looking for right now. We are not going to pay Devin White $18 to $20 million. I don't care what anybody wants. That is just not going to happen. So,
get the guy for like $4 million that you have 5 years on,
and then you get that 5th-year option, and then he gets the Matt Milano contract when Matt Milano's contract is up.
Exactly.
At the end of his rookie deal.
They extended that extension, like was fishy when it happens. Like, why are they doing this now too? But it now it lines up if they wanted to draft a guy there, and that's the only guy that they like. That's the only guy that's worth it. So if he's there, I think if he gets, I don't think they would trade up to get him. But I think if he's there, I think
that would be a reach. That'd be too much of a reach.
Yes.
My perfect scenario for this draft is trading back and still getting Jack Campbell.
But
I don't think they. Yeah, right. But I don't think they take that chance if he's there at 27.
I don't think so either. I think they would just take him and be happy about it, and
I can live with that. That's something I can be happy with. So what's your 2 and your 1?
Wide receiver is number 2 for me.
All right.
I don't if it's Jackson Smith and Jigba who's there, it's number 1. But if it's Addison, if it's Flowers, if it's any of those types of guys, Quentin Johnson, even they haven't really been a lot of on their Hyatt. I would take a swing at them if it's at 27 or again if they trade back into the early second. I think these guys are all more early second type prospects from the way just their college profile and just everything else, but that doesn't mean those guys can't be stars day one. Addison and Flowers could step into this offense and be studs on day one. I think what I want from a receiver is guys. Obviously, we want guys that can play inside and out, but I do think that they're looking to play Diggs inside more this year. Like that's the Hardy. Hardy thing talking about him having inside and outside capabilities and hyping up that. And even though he's a guy that was like, oh, he's going to be a yak guy, everything else, I think that they would like to have Diggs inside to take advantage of those matchups. And he's very good at that.
You'll get Diggs on a linebacker. Yeah. Sometimes. Like that's just not fair.
And you can't do that unless you have legitimate threats on the outside. And like Davis last year, he's got a lot to prove this year. I think he knows that too. But I think if you give him competition, it helps.
We were all a little hard on Davis last year.
We were.
I mean, kind of were.
Everybody was hard on everybody. They were 13-3, and everybody thought the world was falling. Today, did you see what I tweeted today? I was very mean, and nobody liked it, and I didn't think anybody would because it was really mean.
What a mean
to all the people that I'm going after. But it was the Bills bettors being 15%. They're leading the betting thing, and I said, terrible team though. Windows closed, trash, like all the things that I've basically read and argued about 3 months ago. It wasn't mean. I'm not a mean person, so my mean things don't really go as mean. But I'm just like, what are we like? I was like, the world's falling for Bills fans, and yet America is still betting on them to win the Super Bowl more than anybody else. And so we need to remember that. And I think you add to the fastball, that's something they've needed to do. They haven't spent any draft capital really on a wide receiver. I mean, you can say the Diggs trade, sure, whatever, but a young guy, cost-controlled asset in the first round, 5 years would be great. And Jordan Addison's the guy for me, though. Like, I would love Flowers. I wouldn't mind a couple of the other guys. Jordan Addison is a stud. He is a star, and I think he will step onto the field and be an impact player and pro ready day one. He was pro ready last year, and he stayed an extra year, went to USC, balled out again with Caleb Williams.
Yeah. I think you could argue that without Jordan Addison, Kenny Pickett might not have been the first quarterback taken.
Oh, 100%. 100%. There's no way he would have been. Like I like Kenny Pickett. I think he has
he's a fine quarterback.
Yeah. But Jordan Addison made him look like a Heisman candidate. He turned him into a Heisman candidate.
Literally did.
Jordan Addison won the Biletnikoff, best wide receiver in college football. Like, this dude is for real. And if he drops the Bills at 27, I think, and if it's him and Campbell, I think I think they would take Campbell. I would take Addison on there. My number one pick is not a position. It's just a man. This is my
now. Before you do, for anyone tuning in late, and also so it's easier for me to edit this into a clip for social, go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then explain your number one.
All right, hold up. I'm gonna write it. Well, I don't even remember what it is. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
5, 4. Yeah, just position group, and then give me your number one and your reason.
It's not a group; it's a person. 5.
I don't
4,
give me your number
3,
one.
2, 1.
Well, no. Like say like 5. I want this group. 4. I want. Yeah, because
that makes way more sense. All right, so
that's what I'm trying to tell you.
My number 5 position group is safety. I would rather have them trade back to the second round for that. Number 4, tight end, preferably Darnell Washington. Number 3, Jack Campbell, linebacker. That's what I'm looking at. Number 2, wide receiver. And number 1, O'Cyrus Torrence, no matter what.
Okay.
I talked about the trenches earlier.
Right. Yeah.
They need to protect Josh Allen more than anything in the world. Mm-hmm. That dude is a surefire guard first.
That alone is the difference between the Bills and then the Chiefs and the Bengals.
Yes, it's literally the only difference. I like Darnell Wright too as a tackle, but I don't think Spencer Brown is as bad as he was last year. I think he had to help carry some really bad interior linemen. And
he also had a really bad back injury last year.
Yeah, and he was hurt from the beginning of the year all the way through. You know what's going to help him? If you put a stud athlete who O'Cyrus Torrence, RAS score, through the roof next to him on that line, it's going to help that whole line. And you know what? Talk about weapons, talk about anything else, whatever. If Josh Allen's not getting touched, the Bills are going to win 15 games. That's what's going to happen because that's how good he is. So he is the guy. He basically falls to that spot in every mock draft you see. He's far and above the best interior line prospect in this draft. And he is a guy that could step in day one and start. And I don't care about McGovern or Bates. I think that he's better than both those guys, or at least should be better than both those guys. And you should improve on that position and protect your best asset. That's Josh Allen. O'Cyrus Torrence, no matter what. That's what I was going to write down. I couldn't remember the quote.
Love that. No. If honestly, instead of offensive tackle, like my really was offensive line was where I was going there. So I absolutely love that. For my sake of editing my own Instagram, I'll wrap up my group. So I got through it all. Number 5, offensive line. I just have it that low because I don't want to depend on rookies protecting Josh Allen, but someone like O'Cyrus Torrence, as you just said, that would be a welcome addition, obviously. Number 4, wide receiver, not as high as tight end because they can't block and help the offensive line like tight ends can. That's why I have tight end at number 3. And that really is, as we said, a Darnell Washington at number 3 for me. Number 2, defensive tackle, because it is a need that is going to creep up as soon as next year. And someone in the first round could absolutely help this team now with the rotation. Ed Oliver, Jordan Phillips, and Daquan Jones alone will not just get it done. I think if you draft someone like who were we saying? I gotta go to my notes. I hate going to notes. If you draft someone like a Jalen Carter or a Kalijah Kancey or a Maisie Smith, any of those can step into this defensive line this year and be a part of the rotation and healthily contribute. And lastly, number 1 for me is linebacker, is Jack Campbell, is the one position group that can 100% unequivocally contribute right away. And as we said, his rookie contract would be up right when Matt Milano's would be. So I think we've defended our lists pretty well. I think we have.
I think they're pretty set up to do like they're going to fill all their holes no matter what in this draft. And they're going to come out of the draft, no matter who they take in this first round, and no matter how it falls, I think they're going to come out and every position is going to be accounted for. And linebacker is really the only thing left that needs to be accounted for this season going into it, if they wanted to stand pat everywhere else. And I think they'll address it, whether it's Jack Campbell in the first round or second, third round with another guy. I think there's no way they go into the season with just Dotson and Bernard as the competition. There's just that would be malpractice, I think, honestly, as an organization. Not that there's anything wrong with those guys and that maybe they're not the starters. I think that it's definitely too soon to call on Bernard after 1 year and not a lot of reps. Like people are just, I don't know, Twitter football fans, Twitter fans, sports fans in general don't recognize that, year by year development is a thing a lot of times.
And I think also, like, for years and years, we have been saying that this regime is so slow to trust guys and young players. Like, it took James Cook so long to get in after that first fumble on his first carry, waiting for Gabriel Davis to be utilized. We're still waiting for, and thankfully he was eventually, but waiting for Khalil Shakir to be utilized now. Yep. And with the weirdness that went on with Kyer Elam even last year. It's no secret that this team is not going to throw a young player into action they aren't ready for. And so if they do throw Terrell Bernard into the starting job, I will feel good about it just based off that reasoning alone. However, I think we should all kind of pump the brakes and take a second to say there is probably a 1% chance that Terrell Bernard is a starting linebacker for this football team. And if it is the case, unfortunately, you just got to say, trust the process, because it's a decision they rarely ever make.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. Well, that was fun. Had some fun there. You and I were mostly on the same page as per usual. And so something unbills related this year, which is fantastic to say, is the quarterback prospects for this draft. We'll talk the top 4-ish, give our comps for them and the best landing spots as we see them. And is Bryce Young the clear QB1 to you? Is that where we should start?
Oh, no, he is not.
Thank goodness. Is it CJ Stroud?
I think there's two different things I'll say. Stroud, I think, is who I think will be number one, I think Carolina will pick. If I was picking a quarterback, I would not passing up the potential of Anthony Richardson at this point. Like, I just can't. The dude,
I remember I texted my friend, like, as soon as Carolina traded up, I texted my friend Eric, and I said, they're literally trading up for Anthony Richardson, aren't they? And he said, you're so fucking stupid. Shut up. And I'm just like, eyeball emojis every single day.
Here's the thing. I got convinced the other day. I've loved Stroud. Let me say this. I think Stroud is going to be better Dak Prescott. I think that's basically what he can be in, like, style of quarterback. He's one of the smartest quarterbacks. Yeah. That will be one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league. He has the arm to make every throw. He's not going to run a lot. He's going to be an unwilling runner, and that's what Dak
can run if he needs to.
He can run if he needs to. He showed that in the Natty, but there are a lot of games that you watched him and you're just like, dude, if you just ran 7 yards and slid, that would have been so much better than the throw you just tried to make. Like, he does have those plays, but he can do everything. I think that's like his ceiling, and that's a really good ceiling, right? But Anthony Richardson's ceiling is Josh Allen, but can jump higher, run faster, and maybe throw the ball farther. And that's not just me. That's not being the lazy, like, all these athletic quarterbacks are Josh Allen. No, this dude's a fucking animal. He's a freak. He struggled. Yes, he struggled with accuracy. He got better as the year went on, and they fired their fucking coach. So it didn't like they've had a bunch of he had a like staggered kind of college career. But the way you listen to the guy get talked about, he's a willing worker. He's like one of the most down to earth, intelligent guys. He'll be working. Yeah, he's gonna do whatever he needs to do to get better. And he just has the right. He's, at least from like what you hear from people, what you've been reading so far and everything, like the right kind of what's the growth mindset to get better. And if that you have that much talent, that kind of mindset, and then you have an organization like, say, the Lions or even the Panthers, who are very insulated and have a very good foundation, good coaching staffs that are going to take their time and develop them. You just got to take the swing on Richardson, in my opinion. So that's my number one, like, by far. I can't pass it up. Yeah. Like, it's because I would feel so stupid if he turns into what he could be. And you're like, I picked the 6 foot Bryce Young. Like, no, I would. Yeah. I'm sorry, Bryce. Like, I love him too.
5'10" Bryce Young.
Yeah, he's not 6 foot. No way.
Now I also love Richardson. I think I have Stroud over him just because he's the safer pick with a
100%
similar ceiling, not identical, but like a good enough ceiling.
You could be a top tier team with Stroud for a long time. Yeah.
And so I'll start on Richardson and then we'll go to Stroud. So Richardson, at times he has shades of Mariota. He has shades of Wentz in his rookie year. He has shades of Trubisky when he looked good at times. And then, of course, Allen and Newton is absolutely everyone is saying. And then I didn't even really think of the Lions for him. And I love that a lot because what he needs is someone to sit behind for 1 year, one individual year, or 7 weeks until the guy gets hurt or something like that. And that's I would much prefer the Lions now that you say it. But the first team that comes to my mind, and it seems like it's just a trendy one, so I hate saying it, is the Seattle Seahawks because he'd be able to sit behind Geno Smith for one.
I'd love that too. The only place I really don't want him to go is Indy because I don't want him on the field right away. With Jim Irsay. I don't think Jim Irsay would be patient enough for him. I don't trust it. I just don't trust the ownership. And like, I know that they have a new coaching staff and everything else. I don't trust his patience with that guy though. And Houston, same thing. Houston's firing coaches left and right. I don't trust anything they do with Carolina. I would trust it if that. And here's the thing. It seems like it's Stroud, right? Like we saw there was that little clip with McCown, like saying like, oh, we'll find a place to play pickup. And now how all the screens are coming out about Stroud, like that, all the bad negative stuff's coming out this week, which makes me think it's like, even more likely that Stroud is the surefire.
This is my favorite part of the draft season is when all the bad things start to come out 13 days before.
It's like first we hype everybody up and then 2 weeks before it's like actually this guy like kicked his puppy one time and
will anything ever beat Laramie Tunsil's gas mask? Will anything ever be better than that?
The day of. He still made a lot of money though. Good for him.
A ton of money.
My gosh. I'll never forget seeing the gas mask on ESPN like in my grandparents' house and just being like, this is not a timeline. I thought it would be.
And I had seen one literally the night before as well, but not on a TV screen.
But
then Stroud, you said Dak, and I've been seeing a lot of comparisons like that. And the only issue I have with it is that I think Dak's mobility gets a little overrated at times. And so I think that honestly. And I think he's also
Dak won't run anymore either. He's not gonna.
Dak
he's
won't
done
run anymore.
He's done after that.
It's hard for me to remember what it looked like with Dak Prescott actually being a successful quarterback.
In college, Dak was like a bulldozer. He was running. Stroud never did that at Ohio State.
Like Mike Tolbert out there at times.
And Stroud he didn't care to run like that. He would run unwillingly run. Like if someone was chasing him, he'd be like, like I guess I'll scramble for 7 yards because he just wants to throw touchdowns. When you've got Marvin Harrison Jr. or you have Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave, you know what's more fun than running for 7 yards and maybe getting hit by a linebacker? Throwing a 70-yard touchdown. I don't fucking blame him.
Yeah,
I don't blame him.
And that's kind of why my comp for him is Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
like a Joe Burrow light, like a not even better than Walmart brand, like an Aldi's brand Joe Burrow, you know? And my landing spot for him, and I hate it. You can ship me a slap in the face if you want to, but the Jets have shown that they're willing to give up draft capital to land. You think
they're gonna bail on Aaron?
I think if by draft night Aaron Rodgers is not a Jet, they will trade up and get a quarterback.
Hey, I don't
like it. I don't like it. If it's Bryce Young, I'll be happy about it. Honestly, I will actually be very, very happy.
I think Bryce is a lock to Houston, and I'm scared for him.
Yeah, well, I don't hate the landing spot all that much
I just don't like Houston as an organization. That's
the thing. Yeah, no, I think the offense is actually kind of like shockingly set up to bring in a rookie
They're
quarterback.
solid.
Yeah, like Laramie Tunsil, decent left tackle. We just talked about him. Love how much Laramie Tunsil love is getting done today. Decent running game with Damian Pearson Motor. He'll get reunited with John Mechie. Dalton Schultz, I forgot he went there. And then Robert Woods. Like, that's not a bad top 5 group of weapons. Plus, they have some other wide receiver that didn't totally stink last year. I can't remember his name, but I thought they did.
I mean, Cooks was there for a little bit.
Cooks was there for a little bit, but I feel like there was some guy. But his comp for me is like Tua-ish.
Yeah.
And it's, again, a quarterback I'm just not very excited about.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know what else.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, like, he's just small, and if those guys get hit, like, that's why I would take Stroud over him, and that's why I'd take the chance on Richardson over him, because
absolutely
Richardson's a 6'6" Adonis, and fucking Stroud is he's 6'3", he's above average, he's a big kid, like he's lanky, so he's gonna put muscle on as he gets into the league. Bryce is just tiny. The thing about Bryce is the smartest of all these guys. Like and
that's where the Drew Brees comps come in, just because he's smart. You know?
Oh, he might be more mobile Drew Brees. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And that's a guy you can win a lot of games with.
That's the thing. Like,
or he could be Baker Mayfield,
or he exactly.
Like, it's like, because he looks like, if you watch a lot of Baker and Bryce college tape, besides like the scrambling, like the passing and the mobile, the throws on the run and everything, it looks really similar. And Baker, I still think, I think if he didn't go to Cleveland and that whole shit show, he could have been at least, not a mess.
Just earlier today, I was thinking about him recreating the Brett Favre photo.
That was amazing.
I know, right? I don't know why.
What's so sad is I was so sad when the Browns drafted him number 1, because I was just really hoping that he'd end up a Buffalo Bill somehow, and how the tables have turned in life.
I will say I wanted Baker over Josh. I wanted Josh Rosen over Josh. I did not want Darnold over Josh. But the one take that I have that I can still hang my hat on is that Lamar Jackson was my QB1.
Yeah, I was gonna say I wanted Lamar. Realistically,
back and get Lamar.
Realistically, I was like, I want Baker, but if anything, like just take Lamar Jackson somewhere. Lamar dropping in that draft was still
unbelievable.
I can't believe we're talking about this again.
Might be a good way to end the show with talking about Lamar. I'm sorry, Will Levis. I'm not going to spend too much time on.
No, hold on. No. Let me talk about Will Levis real quick. He's going to be bad.
Okay, so the Jay Cutler counts.
Sean Clifford, because I've watched, and I'm sure he's gotten better. I know he's gotten better from this. But Sean Clifford was one of the most infuriating college football quarterbacks for 5 years, and Will Levis had every single opportunity to beat him out at Penn State. And they were like, nah, we're not going to give Will the job. Yep. And then he went to Kentucky, and he played well at Kentucky. Kentucky's also has a lot of talent. They're a great school. They've got and he didn't play as well last year either. This is more 2 years ago. This is the tape we're coming off of here. Levis is fine. He's not going to be a good NFL quarterback. I refuse to believe the guy that lost out to Sean Clifford, who is my mortal enemy, is going to be a good quarterback. I
am a Penn State fan, and so that is very alarming for me. The fact that I had to watch Sean Clifford just blow. Penn State has such a talented football team year in and year out. They might have one of the best.
This year's going to be fun.
They might have one of the best rosters in college football over the past few years. If you take away quarterback, they might be top 3. Honestly.
They've been like top 10 recruiting except for like 1 year basically for the last 7-8 years. Yeah. They have a quarterback this year though. Drew Allaire, number 5 prospect. But anyways,
Levis,
Will
fuck
Levis.
Yeah, get out of here. Will Levis. His numbers are completely inflated by play action, and play action can make a bad quarterback look average. So, but not a bad quarterback is Lamar Jackson. Not a bad wide receiver is Odell Beckham. And if Lamar Jackson stays, which it seems like he's going to be staying in Baltimore at this point, he'll be throwing to Odell Beckham Jr. is the $18 million contract to Odell is, I feel like that could have been $8 million if they waited like 2 weeks.
They're desperate. I'm not as sure about Lamar as you are. I still don't think he's going to, I think he's going to stretch it out. I think he's not going to show up to, I don't think he's showing up to OTAs. I don't think he's going to show up.
If he doesn't show up to OTAs, does Odell show up to OTAs?
I don't see why he would. I don't think Lamar's showing up to camp at least until like maybe the week before, if he decides to show up or he's traded. Like this is not ending anytime soon. At least maybe he does end up suiting up for the Ravens this year, but I think he makes that decision like at the buzzer before anything else. And what do you do if you're Odell? Like Odell, I think I think that's why they gave him the bag, because they're like, this is our only chance. Like we overpay this guy. Because he's not worth that. You're right. He's worth like 10 million, 8 million. Mm-hmm. 18 is crazy. And
he's not worth more than Jacoby Myers.
When did that offer? There's no way that offer's been on the table either. Because if that was like if 18 was on the table day one from the Ravens, he was taking that.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think the entire sports world was kind of confused. I will say if Lamar does stay in Baltimore and they have not their fifth running back starting, that will be a good offense.
It will.
That will be a very good team.
I'm very
excited about that.
Todd Monken's a good coordinator. They're going to be a good passing, but a much better passing offense than they've been in years past. If Lamar stays.
Now that they won't have Greg Roman going over there,
I don't know. Lamar, he doesn't seem like a guy that forgives and forgets very quickly. So I think he's going to stretch this out. Mm-hmm. All these draft teams that we're talking about are all stupid. That's my biggest statement of this show. Because you should just be the Lions should just be trading their draft for Lamar Jackson. The Panthers should just be trading their draft for Lamar Jackson. The Jets should just be trading their draft for Lamar Jackson.
All of them.
Any of these teams, the Seahawks should be trading their draft for Lamar Jackson. Every single team. He is one of the top tier quarterbacks in the league, both running and passing the ball. Everybody's like,
the narrative that he hasn't improved as a passer is like, do you just say that and then not look at anything?
And here's the thing, he doesn't have to be the top passer in the league when you factor in how his running helps him open up passing lanes. He doesn't have to be pinpoint accurate.
He has to be an average NFL quarterback.
Yes.
And he is more than an average passing quarterback.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Yes, 100%. This is my biggest thing, man. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why people get so mad when players want to get paid, because then you're on the side of billionaires. And what are we talking about? Who do you have more in common with? The player that grew up poor and is trying to cash out, or the billionaire owner that doesn't even know who you are? What are we talking about here? Lamar, go get paid. That's what I want to happen. I hope that he does. Fuck the Ravens, though. This is ridiculous at this point. I can't believe we got to this point either. This is insane that you have let this get to this point. And I'm just glad that the Bills paid Josh Allen last summer.
I'm very happy the Bills paid Josh Allen, and that's why they are set up to do, and just all the other moves they've made is why they're set up to do what they are in this draft, and that is honestly draft the best player available out of 6 or so different positions that no one could really be that upset about. As we outlined our top 5 positions each before. If you're just tuning in now, make sure you go listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you get your shows. This will be up in the morning. And before we get out, I just want to throw one shout out to our guy Gatesy. I know, Micah, you saw the article that he put up, and we are not a hockey podcast, and also neither of us know what it's like to be a college hockey player who's also a part of the LGBTQ plus community. But our guy Gatesy put that into words from his own experience. And if you haven't read that article yet, I highly recommend it, because especially with everything that's going on in the NHL this year, I think it is a much needed perspective, whether, no matter what side you're on. I think it's a great read. So just wanted to shout out Gatesy for that. It's up on trainwrecksports.com. Very proud of him for what he wrote. So he deserved that shout out there. But that'll do it for us here on the Crowd Assist podcast. Thank you, Jake Micah, for a wonderful conversation. Thank you to Outlet Liquor for being the place to buy a case. What's your outlet? They are our outlet. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. For myself, Jake Micah, everyone at Trainwreck Sports, good